Single mom and her 3 kids discover an incredible truth, a dying stranger's life-changing gift revealed. The night air felt thick, charged with unspoken promises, as Sarah wiped down the counter at Nellie's diner, her heart heavy with fatigue. She had just finished the second of her 2 shifts. The clatter of plates and low hum of chatter faded, and in that stillness, she exhaled, allowing herself a moment of reflection. Her 3 children were home, waiting for her. Each smile and eager little voice was a balm against the wounds left by her husband's sudden passing. But home was now quiet, marked by an empty chair at the table, echoing grief with every mealtime. Just as she finished up, old Mr. Davis stumbled through the door, frail and weathered, like a leaf barely clinging to the branch. Sarah rushed to his side as he crumbled, collapsing in a heap. Panic gripped her heart. Hands shaking, she called for help, but it was her own soothing voice he needed. When he opened his eyes, she peered into a world of stories untold. "Sarah," he breathed, "there's something you need to know, about your husband." The weight of his words seeped into her bones, instant warmth, brimming with old generosity. Stunned, Sarah listened as Mr. Davis recounted how her husband had quietly put together projects to aid struggling families like hers without seeking praise. Her husband's heart had been as generous as any man's, yet as loss had claimed her, the community's whispers around her just grew louder. The clinking of forks fell silent, replaced by hushed gazes and pitiful looks. Struggling to make ends meet while raising her 3 kids, she could feel their judgment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Hope inexplicably glinted through the fog of despair. Mr. Davis's wobbly hands clutched her tightly, revealing plans her husband had laid out years prior, blueprints etched with kindness. The thought that he wanted to lift others even after death caused tears to prickle her eyes. Yet, building a legacy is one thing, accepting it seemed like defeat. The welfare check they desperately depended on hung by a thread, like a tightrope above a precipice. The choice loomed. Would she choose to uphold her pride or allow this life-changing legacy to compress her already heavy heart? It was at a local charity event, where vibrant lights danced upon anxious faces, that she faced the reality of her choices. Her children's hopeful eyes burned into her resolve. Emma buzzed with energy, Danny sat brooding with judgment in tow, and Lily, ever the gentle soul, reminded her of all that was left unsaid. As she took center stage, the audience waited. Every heartbeat synchronized with hers, filling the air with tension. The question pierced through the silence: could one truly embrace the gift of community without sacrificing their dignity? Sarah felt that silence deep in her chest, like a fading heartbeat. The answer hovered just beyond reach, but what if it held the key to not just providing for her children but honoring the life and love of her late husband? The air thickened, anticipation swirling in the room as she stood at the edge of decision, trembling with uncertainty. What would she choose for her family's future? As Sarah stood on that stage, glimmering lights reflecting off her moist eyes, she felt as if time had slowed. The chatter of the crowd faded away, replaced by the pounding of her heart. The stakes had never felt higher. She glanced at the audience members, familiar faces mixed with strangers, but all held the weight of stories untold, just like her own. They awaited her words, hungry for a glimpse into her soul. Taking a deep breath, Sarah summoned the memory of her husband's laughter, the kindness he had showered upon countless families. It was as if he stood beside her, whispering encouragement. "Remember, love," she could almost hear him say, "service is strength." Inspired, she cleared her throat, and the tremors in her voice began to settle. "I never thought I would be standing here today," she started slowly, her voice gaining volume with each word. "The past months have been the hardest of my life. I lost my husband, my partner, my rock, but he left behind something far greater than memories. A collective gasp swept through the audience like ripples on water. Before he passed, he dedicated himself to uplifting our community without asking for anything in return. Through his small acts of kindness, he aimed to change lives. I found that out tonight. The air crackled with curiosity, uncertainty, and compassion. As she spoke, images of her children danced across her mind. Their laughter, carefree nature, and the way they relied on her. She turned to them, her sweet Emma and gentle Lily, their eyes wide, soaking every syllable in. But Danny, her sensitive one, sat frowning, grappling with the truth. He seemed torn between understanding and bitterness. "Here's the thing," Sarah continued, heart racing. "We've all faced hardship. As families, as individuals. But healing and hope often live in the hands of those who lift each other up. I'm not just here as a single mom, I'm here as a representative of strength, resilience, and invulnerability." Her words flowed like a warm tide, spilling over with authenticity. "I choose to embrace the community my husband fostered. I choose to accept help, not just for myself, but to honor his legacy of compassion. I want my children to see that seeking support isn't weakness, it's a path to growth." The room buzzed. People shifted, discomfort mingling with admiration. She caught glances of nodding heads, some hands reaching up for tissues. Emotion rippled through the crowd, empathy uniting them. Yet, she noticed Danny, his eyes narrowing, grappling with conflicting emotions. He needed to hear the truth, yet clung to his stubborn pride. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice shaky but firm. "I'm scared of failure, of judgment, of somehow not being enough. But if I don't lean into what my husband's love built, then what kind of daughter will I be? What kind of mother?" Silence filled the air, and at that moment she caught the eye of Mr. Davis from the corner of the room. He nodded softly, the wrinkles in his smile creasing deeper, a gentle reassurance that resonated profoundly within her. "Today, I ask for your support, not just for me, but for every family trying to make it through tough times. Let's honor the faces behind the struggles." As her heartfelt plea echoed around her, the crowd began to whisper, excitement palpable. Yet, a flicker of anxiety crossed Danny's face. She knew she had laid bare her heart, but how would her son receive this step into vulnerability? The evening lingered thick with potential, hope igniting in every corner of the room. Sarah felt it transform her spirit. She was not alone anymore, she had the community beside her, the legacy to uphold. But as she scanned the faces, a heavy question remained: what would happen when the truth finally came out about her husband's hidden deeds? Would her children embrace the community or resent the past? With her heart pounding, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a larger journey. What awaited them next? What truths would unfold as they ventured forward? As the applause washed over her like a soothing wave, Sarah took a moment to close her eyes and breathe. The echo of claps and cheers created a comforting backdrop, but the prevailing anxiety didn't dissipate. She turned to her kids, hoping to find solace in their expressions. Emma was beaming, her eyes illuminated with pride. Lily was perched on the edge of her seat, captivated. But Danny looked troubled. He was staring down, fist clenched around the program he had been holding since they entered the hall. It was a stark contrast to his sister's joy. Sarah's heart sank. She wanted so badly for him to understand, for him to feel what she felt, that sense of hope shimmering through the sorrow. As the crowd began to disperse, conversations bubbled around her and the three of them huddled close together. "Mom," Danny finally spoke, the tension in his voice unmistakable. "Are you really okay with this?" He waved his hand vaguely around, gesturing to the room full of people who had just witnessed their loss laid bare. "What do you mean, honey?" Sarah asked gently, trying to draw him in. "I'm doing this for us, for all of us. But what if they only see you because of Dad? What if they're just pitying us?" Danny's voice trembled, thick with the emotion he fought to contain. His expression broke Sarah's heart. She realized this was more than just a moment in front of the crowd. This was about trust, about healing. That's not what it is, Sarah replied, staying calm, even as concern flickered across her face. They're here because they want to help. They remember your dad for what he did. They admire him and now they want to support us. No, they don't, Danny countered, his brows furrowed in defiance. They're here to feel better about themselves. Because they think we're some kind of charity case. Sarah tried to find the words, to bridge the chasm of misunderstanding. Your dad was incredible. People want to honor his legacy by helping us. That doesn't make us weak, it makes us part of a community that cares. He fell silent, but she could see the argument still brewing in his mind. The shadows of grief and frustration danced across his face. Emma and Lily exchanged worried glances, as if they were caught between their brother's doubt and their mom's steadfast love. Mr. Davis made his way through the crowd, his smile broadening as he approached them. Sarah, he said warmly, then nodded at the kids. You all must be so proud of her. She spoke from the heart. Thanks, Mr. Davis, Sarah responded, appreciating his unwavering support. It means a lot. Sarah, I want you to know your husband left a mark in this community. We can rally, we can help, and I think it's important we do, he said, glancing meaningfully at Danny. You know, young man, your dad believed in standing for what's right for helping others. Embracing support doesn't diminish us, it enhances us. Danny shifted in place, the anger ebbing as he grappled with the words. It was the first time someone outside their family had spoken about his father so directly since the loss. Sarah felt hope bloom again, tightening its grip around her heart, but just as the atmosphere began to lighten, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her heart dropping into her stomach as she read the name on the screen. Dr. Harrison, the family doctor. The weight of the world settled heavily on her shoulders. They'd only seen him last week for a follow-up appointment. What could this call mean? Mom, who is it? Emma asked, her innocent curiosity cutting through the tension. Just a call I need to take, Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. She nodded to Mr. Davis and hoped he would keep talking to her kids, giving them the support they needed. With a few steps away from the crowd, she answered the call. As she listened, her breath hitched. Sarah, I have news about your husband's estate, Dr. Harrison began. An unsettled feeling churned within her. What would this mean for their family? What new revelations awaited? Her heart raced again, but this time not from fear, but an urge to know. What life-changing news could this be? Sarah, are you there? Dr. Harrison's voice broke through her thoughts, heavy with expectation. I'm here, she finally managed, her throat dry. The crowd faded away, leaving only the sound of her own heartbeat. There's been some confusion about the paperwork, he continued, his tone professional yet warm. Your husband's estate has some assets that were unforeseen. I believe it's important for you to understand what this means or might mean for you and the children. Assets. The word resonated in her mind, filled with what-ifs and possibilities. What kind of assets? She probed, needing clarity. It's a lot to explain over the phone, but just to give you a brief overview, there was a policy we didn't discuss during our last meeting. In addition, there are some community contributions he made that are now coming to fruition. As he spoke, her mind wandered to the things they struggled to manage daily. The groceries piling up, the school expenses, the bills barely kept at bay. Could this call alter their path? Yes, go on, she urged, trying to keep her voice steady. Sarah, the financial support you may receive could bring some relief, he replied, pausing as if weighing the gravity of his words. I think I need you to come into the office to go over everything in detail. Relief? The word hung in the air like a lifeline. Could it really be that simple? Relief from the unrelenting pressure? But then doubt crept in. But how much are we talking about? Is this just what's left over? Is it enough to change anything? Let us not get ahead of ourselves. But it's certainly enough to give your family options, perhaps alter your immediate situation. Her head spun. Options. Options felt like a new path carved out just for them, a way to breathe instead of just survive. Okay, she said, her tone firming with determination. I'll come by tomorrow. You'll want to bring some identification. And I suggest you bring someone for support too, Dr. Harrison added, sensing her turmoil. This may be overwhelming. Yeah. I'll do that. She hung up, her heart still hammering. She turned to see Danny sitting on a nearby bench, staring into space, while his sisters chatted with Mr. Davis. Moments before, she was filled with dread over the call, now, a glimmer of hope started to shimmer. But uncertainty shadowed her heart. How much would it mean? How much would it change? Hey, Danny, she called, beckoning him over. His expression was still subdued, but he rose, his body tense. Listen, I just got off the phone with Dr. Harrison. He has some news about your dad's estate. What kind of news? He asked, eyes narrowing in curiosity. Good news, I think, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. We need to talk about it together. Danny's eyebrows drew together, and she could sense the wheels turning in his mind. Emma and Lily approached, sensing the shift in mood. Are we getting a puppy? Emma teased, trying to lighten the heavy air. Not quite a puppy, Sarah said with a small smile, but the weight of the moment lingered. Danny looked skeptical. What do you mean? Tomorrow, I'll learn more. Just there might be a way to help us. The word help hung in the air, and as Sarah observed their exchange, she felt a hint of resistance crack. Maybe Danny would start to understand that embracing support didn't mean losing their dad's memory. As they walked toward the car, uncertainty dangled like a thread, ready to snap. Not knowing what this news ultimately meant felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. What if they could change their situation? What if they could put a little bit of distance between them and the suffocating weight of grief? Mom, Danny said quietly, breaking her thoughts. Are you sure we even want this? Sarah paused, her breath hitching as she looked at her son. He was wrestling with the notion of accepting help, the very thing that could bring them relief and reinstate some hope into their lives. I don't know, she finally responded, the truth spilling out as her heart opened. But I think we owe it to ourselves to find out. Just then, she spotted a stranger leaning against a nearby car. He looked lost in thought, his eyes so much like Danny's, and in that moment, an urge to reach out suddenly filled her. What direction would this moment take them? Would they find the courage to face the storm head-on? Danny squinted at the stranger, curiosity brewing in his eyes. What was the stranger thinking, and how would his presence affect their lives for years to come? Mom, let us go, Danny said, pulling her gently. But somewhere deep inside, Sarah felt the shift in the air, a prelude to something monumental waiting to unfold. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger was somehow pivotal. She turned to look again, but he had vanished, lost in the crowd of bustling parents and children. It was odd, but his presence lingered in her mind like a whisper of fate. Let's go, she said, shaking off the heavy atmosphere settling in her chest. The kids piled into the car, and she took a moment to collect her thoughts before slipping into the driver's seat. The engine purred to life, a comforting sound amidst the chaos. Where to now? Emma asked, bouncing in her seat, trying to distract from the heaviness of their earlier conversation. Home, Sarah replied. But first, I think we should stop and get ice cream. It feels like a good day for a treat. Yes. Lily cheered, her face lighting up with the familiarity of the idea. Danny stared out the window, lost in thought, as they drove through town. Streetlights flickered past, and Sarah's mind darted between the uncertainty of tomorrow and the dream of relief. Ice cream would buy them a moment of sweetness, wouldn't it? When they arrived at the quaint little shop, the rich scent of waffle cones filled the air. The kids tumbled out, their spirits momentarily lifted. As they waited in line, Sarah scrolled through her phone, trying to prepare herself for the meeting that loomed ahead. "Mom," Danny's voice broke through her focus. "Do you think Dad wanted us to have this?" The weight of his question hung in the air, laden with emotion. "I think he would want us to be happy, Danny," she said, her voice shaky. "Even if it means accepting help." Danny nodded slowly, but she could see the struggle within him. It mirrored her own, an uncharted mix of longing and fear. Before she could respond, the ice cream came, dripping with vibrant colors and overflowing with possibilities. They found a table outside, the afternoon sun warming their skin. Laughter bubbled between bites of ice cream, filling the air with fleeting joy. But in each smile, Sarah sensed the threads of uncertainty still weaving through their lives. "Mom," Emma said, her voice bright, "what if we had a pet? Like a puppy? It would make everything better." Sarah chuckled but felt a tightness in her chest. "A puppy maybe one day," she told them, wishing it could be that simple. As they finished their ice cream, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a text from Dr. Harrison, reminding her about the appointment tomorrow. A wave of panic washed over her. What if this was all too much? What if they opened a Pandora's box of emotions? "Can we go back to the park?" Lily piped up, pulling her out of her thoughts. "Sure. Just for a little while," Sarah said, guiding them to the nearby playground. Watching her kids play was a balm for her heart. Their laughter echoed through the trees, a chorus of innocence and joy. In that moment, she wondered if accepting help might not just be about finances. It could mean teaching her children about resilience, about community. As the sun began to set, casting golden light along the horizon, Danny approached her, his expression earnest. "Mom, maybe we can try to find a way to make this work. You know, if it helps us. Like Dad would want." Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes as she pulled him into an embrace. "You're right, Danny. We'll face it together." But in the pit of her stomach, an unshakable anxiety settled. She was teetering on the edge of something life-changing, and she didn't know if she was ready. They left the park hand in hand, the air thick with unspoken hopes. Just as they reached the car, the same stranger she had seen earlier appeared again. This time, he seemed more solid, his eyes searching as he approached them. "Excuse me," he said, his voice steady but urgent, "I think I might have something for you, something you didn't know you needed." The world around them faded as Sarah's heart raced. Could this strange man and his mysterious intentions be the key to their future? What was he about to reveal? The stranger looked at Sarah intently, his gaze piercing through the clutter of her thoughts. She could feel the air shift, a hush falling over the surrounding noise of the parking lot. Her heart raced, uncertainty swirled in her mind. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He took a breath, steadying himself as if finding the right words in a tumult of emotion. "I know this might sound strange, but I've been following you and your kids for a little while now." Danny stepped forward, a protective instinct flaring in his deep-set brown eyes. "Mom, maybe we should just go. This is weird." "Wait," Sarah said, her curiosity overpowering her apprehension. "What do you know about us?" The stranger shifted awkwardly, looking at the kids. After a moment, he found his voice again. "It's not about the past, it's about the future. I've seen families fall apart in times like this, but I believe you can heal." "How do you know that?" Lily piped up, squeezing Sarah's hand. He knelt down to her level, kindness softening his expression. "Because I've been where you are. I lost my family once, and now I want to help other families not have to go through the same." Sarah's heart sank. The pain in his eyes mirrored her own. Are you sick?" she asked, dread creeping across her skin. A bittersweet smile crossed his face, and he nodded. "That's exactly why I'm here. I have a message for you, a piece of wisdom that can change everything." "Mom, we should really leave," Danny insisted, his voice rising with concern. She shook her head, torn between instinct and intrigue. "Just a moment, please." "What wisdom?" The stranger searched his pockets, pulling out a small, tattered notebook. My family had their own struggles too. I wrote down everything that helped us through, all the little things that mattered the most. It's not much, but you deserve to know that things can get better. Her heart jolted at the thought of someone, a complete stranger, going through the same turmoil they were facing. You want to give this to me? Yes, he said, holding it out with trembling hands. And I need you to promise me something. Use it. Share it with your kids. Teach them that life is a series of choices, and there's always hope if you look for it. The weight of his words pressed down on her chest. Sarah glanced at her children, their faces a mix of curiosity and confusion. What if it doesn't work? It will work if you believe it can. His voice was almost a whisper, yet it carried a power that pulled at the corners of her heart. Danny's frown deepened. Mom, we should go. Please. Sarah hesitated. A mixture of desperation and intrigue flickered inside her. Was this man genuine? The fear of the unknown clashed with a yearning for guidance. Just one moment, she told her son. She extended her hand and took the worn notebook, feeling its magical potential pulse against her fingers. Thank you, she whispered, her voice shaky. Remember, even the smallest light can illuminate the darkest path. His eyes twinkled, hinting at a deeper wisdom. As she turned to her children, something shifted within her. Could this really be the turning point they needed? But as they prepared to leave, the man's expression shifted, darkening as if a storm cloud passed over him. Just know, he added urgently, time is not on my side. You need to open that book soon. With that, he stepped back, allowing them to move forward. Mom, let us go. Danny urged again. As they climbed into the car, Sarah clutched the notebook tightly, her mind racing with possibilities. What awaited them within its pages? Once buckled in, she turned the keys in the ignition, still processing everything that had just happened. No matter the outcome, she now held a sliver of hope in her hands. As they pulled out of the lot, Sarah couldn't shake that feeling, the whisper in her soul urging her to explore this unexpected gift. But what if that wisdom held answers to questions she had never even thought to ask? What more lay hidden in the pages of the stranger's life? As the engine hummed to life, the tension in the car was palpable. Danny sat stiffly, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. Lily had shifted in her seat, glancing warily back at the parking lot, as if expecting the stranger to emerge again. Sarah's heart raced with a complicated mix of apprehension and curiosity. She could almost feel the weight of the notebook resting in her lap, a tangible reminder of the unexpected encounter. Mom, can we just go home? Danny pleaded, his young voice quivering slightly. She felt the knot in her stomach tighten. I know, honey, but this could be important. Important? He echoed, incredulous. Or just weird. What if he is not telling the truth? Maybe, but what if he is? Sarah's thoughts spiraled as she pulled the car out of the lot. Was she really considering diving into the unknown? Lily, sensing the growing tension, placed her small hand on Sarah's leg, her innocent face filled with concern. Are you okay, Mom? Sarah forced a smile, not entirely convinced herself. I am, really. Just a little surprised by everything. She glanced at the notebook again, its worn cover hinting at stories long hidden. If it held any wisdom, any path to resolution for their troubled family, wouldn't it be worth the risk? Let's south head to the park, she finally said, a sudden determination igniting her words. I could use some fresh air. Besides, it will give us some time to think. Danny and Lily exchanged glances but didn't protest. The park wasn't far, and the promise of wide-open spaces and sunshine offered a gentle reprieve from their troubled thoughts. Minutes later, she parked on the edge of the small playground, where children's laughter floated through the air like music. Dappled sunlight filtered through the leaves above, wrapping them in a warm embrace. As they made their way to a secluded bench, Sarah felt her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the notebook. "I think we should take a look at this," she said, opening it slowly. The pages were filled with hasty scribbles and drawings, as if he poured his heart onto each one. The handwriting was sometimes jagged, emotion spilling onto the page. The first entry caught her eye: "When life feels heavy, take each day as it comes. Find joy in the small things." Reading those words aloud, she felt a spark of hope light within her. There was something universal in that advice, a reminder that even in chaos, there could be beauty. Danny leaned closer, peering at the pages. "What else does it say?" "Let us find out together," she said with a smile, feeling the tension within her family ease if only just a little. They combed through the pages, sharing snippets of wisdom that resonated with their lives. Each phrase felt like a small thread weaving them closer together. "Look, Mom. Here's a drawing of a tree," Lily exclaimed, pointing at a doodle on the page. "It says, 'Just as trees grow strong through storms, so will you.'" Sarah's heart swelled. She glanced at her children, who were slowly losing themselves in the pages just like her. But amid their newfound excitement, the memory of the stranger came rushing back, the urgency in his voice, the weight of his unspoken truth. The clock was ticking, and they had only begun to scratch the surface. "What happens next?" Danny asked, his eyes bright with curiosity. Sarah hesitated, unsure of the answer. What lay ahead was still clouded with uncertainty. But one thing was for sure: the past was not a prison, but a place from which they could launch into something altogether new. With a deep breath, she turned the page, her fingers trembling slightly, bracing for the next revelation, whatever it may be. The story was just beginning, and somewhere within those pages might lie the key to transforming their future. The largest question loomed: were they ready to embrace it? The sun began to dip behind the trees, casting elongated shadows across the park, and Sarah felt the air thicken with the weight of expectation. As she flipped the page, a sudden breeze sent a shiver through her, unsettling yet invigorating. The next entry was dated just weeks before they found the notebook. "I was lost in a world I had made for myself," she read aloud, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "Everything felt heavy, like I was carrying my own weight and the burdens of others." A silence fell among them, each of them taking in the gravity of the words. "Mom," Danny said, his brow furrowing with concern. "Is that how you feel?" "Sometimes, buddy," she replied softly, glancing at her children. Their innocence clashed with the truths they were beginning to confront. "But I'm working on it." Lily tugged at her sleeve, eyes wide with a mixture of concern and a desire for connection. "What else does it say? Does it get better?" There was a pause as Sarah's fingers skimmed the paper. She found a small drawing of a heart intertwined with a compass. "Okay, let us see." She took a deep breath and continued. "It says, 'In those moments, I found tiny treasures, a smile from a passerby, the laughter of my children, things that remind me what truly matters.'" The words hung in the air amidst the laughter of children playing in the distance. For a brief moment, the world felt right, and yet, Sarah's heart raced with the unsaid truths still lingering. "What is a tiny treasure, Mom?" Danny asked, curiosity brightening his features. Well, it's finding happiness in unexpected places," Sarah said thoughtfully. "Like when you help someone or enjoy a favorite ice cream. It's the little things that make you smile. Like how you smiled when you found our puppy, Sparky." Lily chimed in, her voice filled with excitement. "Exactly, sweetheart." Sarah couldn't help but smile wider. It felt good to have that joyful moment shared, illuminating the growing shadows of their problems, but, just as quickly, her thoughts turned to the stranger. What truth had he been speaking of? What tiny treasures was he trying to lead them toward? "That doesn't help with the stranger, though," Danny said, his voice dropping back into seriousness. "What if he was dangerous? Or telling us something important?" Sarah insisted, feeling the urge to protect her children but also to explore this new path. Maybe he was lost too. The weight of uncertainty settled heavily over them. The night crept in, the shadows of evening stretching long, wrapping around them like a blanket. The warmth of the day faded, but their resolve seemed to grow. "Let us read one more," Sarah said, her mind racing. "I think we need to keep searching through this until we find something that gives us direction." With bated breaths, they turned to the next page. The words smudged in places, as if written through tears. "You cannot run from your past, but you can learn from it. Embrace the pain, and your heart will find wings." Danny shifted uneasily on the bench. "Mom, do you think we're ready to face whatever it is that stranger wanted to tell us?" A lump formed in Sarah's throat as she met her children's eyes. For the first time, she felt the pull of something greater than themselves. "I believe we need to embrace it, just like this notebook says." As dusk settled around them, cloaking the park in deep hues of blue, Sarah's heart beat with a mix of fear and hope. She could feel that they were on the brink of something life-changing, but what that was, even she did not know. "Okay, but how?" Danny pressed, the concern in his eyes mirroring her own. "Let us keep looking for clues," she said, determination sparking in her voice. "The answers are here, somewhere hidden in this notebook. We just have to be brave enough to uncover them." As they immersed themselves in the pages again, a hidden truth danced on the edge of revelation. What could it be? What secrets lay ahead? And more importantly, were they truly ready to confront whatever past shadows lingered for them? As Sarah turned the page, a faint scent of lavender wafted up from the paper, drawing her deeper into the inked words. "Sometimes, we meet strangers who unlock doors within us that we never knew were closed." Her heart raced. This stranger, the one who had disturbed their day, felt like a key to something more. "What does that mean, Mom?" Lily asked, her small fingers tracing the edge of the page. "It means, people can come into our lives unexpectedly and help us discover parts of ourselves we might not see on our own," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As she thought of the man's piercing eyes, Danny squinted at the page, haunted by worry. "But what if the stranger comes back and he's not nice? What if he wants to hurt us?" Sarah could see the tension in his tiny shoulders. The world was shifting beneath their feet, and he was perceptive enough to feel it. "I know it's scary, but there's another side to that fear. What if he has something important to say? Or maybe he needs help, just like we sometimes do." Lily, ever the optimist, brightened. "Like how you helped Miss Ellen last week. She was sad, and then you made her smile." "Exactly, honey," Sarah affirmed, her heart swelling with pride at Lily's innocence. "Sometimes helping a stranger can lead to something beautiful." Leaving the park, the trees around them transformed into whispering giants, shadows shifting into familiar figures as the last light of day faded. Sarah's instincts urged caution, but she couldn't shake the feeling that destiny had nudged them toward this moment. "Let us head home," she said, trying to ground herself amidst the uncertainties rising in her heart. As they walked, each step felt heavier, the weight of unspoken truths pressing on her. Once inside the warm familiarity of their living room, Sarah set the notebook down. The entire story contained within its pages now felt like a thread connecting her to that stranger. "We should write down what we're feeling," she suggested to the kids, pulling out some fresh paper and colorful markers. Danny looked uncertain, but Lily was already scribbling away on her sheet. "I'm going to draw the puppy," she exclaimed. "Good idea." "I'll write down my worries," Danny said, and his furrowed brow eased a little as his pencil moved. As Sarah picked up her own marker, the scraping sound echoed in the quiet room. Her mind buzzed with questions. What was the strange man's story? What had he meant by unlocking doors? And more importantly, why did she feel like there was deeper meaning behind their encounter? A loud knock on the door startled them, the sound reverberating through the house. Sarah's heart jumped into her throat. She shared a glance with her kids, whose eyes were wide with apprehension. Who could that be? Danny whispered, inching closer to Lily. Stay here, I'll check, Sarah whispered back, though she felt anything but calm. Any sense of normalcy shattered as she approached the door, her heartbeat loud in her ears. With hesitant hands, she turned the knob, the creaking door swinging open to reveal the very figure she had been contemplating moments before. The stranger stood there, a look of determination in his eyes, as if he carried the weight of the world. "Can we talk?" he said, his voice raspy yet urgent, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. Somehow, she knew this was the moment they had been waiting for. But could they truly be ready for what would unfold? "Mom," Danny murmured, his voice barely audible. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped aside, making room for the stranger. What lay ahead might change everything they had thought they knew. The air felt electric as the stranger stepped into their home, and in that moment, Sarah realized how much they had been waiting for this. The warm light of their living room wrapped around them, creating a cocoon of safety, yet inside, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and hope. "I understand this is a lot," he said, glancing at the children, "but there is something important I need to share, something about the legacy your husband left behind." His sincerity pulled at a thread of grief intertwined with hope. "Why now?" Sarah asked, her voice steady, even though her insides felt like a whirlwind. "Why reveal this to us?" He took a breath, steadying himself. "Because I've seen what despair can do to a family. Your husband wanted you to have strength, and he knew that sometimes, help comes from unexpected places." Danny shifted uneasily, arms crossed tightly. But Lily, curious as ever, leaned forward, her youthful innocence prompting her questions. "Did you know Dad well?" The stranger nodded, his expression turning somber. "I knew him as a man who believed in lifting others. He believed that carrying burdens together made them lighter." The room grew quiet as Sarah's heart soared and sank all at once. "How do you know about that?" she queried, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "I was one of those who received his help years ago, a long time before I lost everything I had. He gave me hope when I needed it most." And now he paused, choosing his words carefully, a blend of urgency and compassion filling the air. "Now I want to help you." "Help us how?" Danny broke in, skepticism still etched across his features. "The notebook I gave you, within it are not just thoughts and reflections, but a plan of action. Your dad anticipated that you might need to lean on the community, to accept the helping hand he forged through his journeys. I'm here to show you how to take the first steps," the stranger explained, his voice carrying a gentle strength. Sarah felt a swell of contradiction. How could they become part of this legacy without losing their independence? But inside, a flicker of determination ignited a realization that there was more to strength than doing everything alone. "Let us look at it together," she suggested, the weight of uncertainty dwindling as she spoke. The stranger nodded, a hint of understanding shining through his eyes. They gathered around the cozy couch, Sarah opening the well-worn notebook and sharing pages filled with scribbled notes of wisdom. The pages were marked with her husband's thoughts on community, hope, and resilience. Each entry felt like a fragment of his spirit reaching out to them. Lily chimed in, pointing to a passage. "It says here, always give back even when it feels like you have nothing left." "What does that mean?" Her sweet voice cut through the layers of doubt that surrounded them. The stranger smiled, clearly impressed. "It means that giving doesn't always have to be about money or things. It can be about offering your time, your talents, your heart. In helping others, you often find healing for yourselves." As the evening unfolded, laughter mixed with tears, stories binding their spirits together. Danny's brow softened, his wariness fading. He was listening now. They were a family, sharing their fears and hopes, illuminating the darkness that had lingered too long. "Mom," he later said, his voice thoughtful, "I think I get it. Dad built this legacy to show us how to stand taller, to connect." "Exactly," Sarah said, her eyes glimmering with gratitude at her son's insight. "And letting others help us doesn't mean we're weak, it shows strength to be vulnerable. It honors his legacy." The warmth in the room felt palpable as they connected over shared laughter and the wisdom of a man they loved but lost. In that moment, Sarah felt a genuine shift. It began to dawn on her this was not just about receiving help, it was about transforming their grief into empowerment. The stranger watched as the family embraced this turning point, his expression blending hope with satisfaction. You are already on the path to healing. Trust in the journey ahead. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. At long last, as he prepared to leave, he turned to Sarah. Remember, Sarah, lean into your community, lean into each other, and let the legacy flourish. It will lead you to places you never imagined. With that, he disappeared into the night like a whisper of fate fulfilled, leaving the family enveloped in a warmth they had long craved. Mom, Danny said, looking at her, acceptance washing over him. Can we do this together? Absolutely, she said, heart full, a radiant smile breaking through as she realized the path emerged before them, a path where their pain transformed into purpose. And as they huddled together, the intertwining threads of their lives began to weave into a rich tapestry, one of support, understanding, hope, and love. This was their new beginning, a chance to rise up, fortified by the multifaceted gifts of community and connection, together. But remember this isn't just their journey. No story is complete without you. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.